Back before I started Tommy Boy, back in 1980, I was running a newsletter for DJs called Dance Music Report. And I heard about this phenomenon called breakbeats in 1980, and I went and I heard, and somebody told me about this store that we used to get reports from, because we used to call record stores and find out what the hottest records were selling. And there's this one store in New York that was called Downstairs Records, and it was downstairs in the subway right at 42nd Street and 6th Avenue. And they had a special room called Breakbeat Room that was tiny. It was about the size of this room. It was like a large closet, walk-in closet size. And there were 45s on the wall and 12 inches on the wall and albums on the wall. And they were selling albums like Bob James, the Eagles, the Long Run, the Monkees. They were selling 45s of Scorpio, the Incredible Bongo Band, you know, Apache, and all of these kind of records. And they were either bootlegs or they were cutouts, and they were selling them for like $10 or $15. And there was a lineup of little kids that were like 16 and 17-year-old kids, mostly from the Bronx or Uptown, but mostly they were from the Bronx. And they were pooling their money together and buying 2 of each. And I asked these guys, how do you know about these records and how do you know what to buy? And said, there's this guy up in the Bronx, his name is Afrika Bambaataa, and we go hear him play, and these are the records he plays. So I found out when he was playing, and I called him, and I went up to see him spin at this place called the T Connection up in the Bronx. It was a walk-up stairs thing, and I was like the only white guy in the club, and it was like, I thought I was the only guy over 20 in the club too. And Bambaataa was up on the balcony playing music, and on one side there was Red Alert, and the other side there was Jazzy J, and those guys were the second DJs. They were the sort of the quick cut DJs, but Bambaataa would tell them what to play, and he'd play a set for like 40 minutes or half an hour, and he'd play Kraftwerk mixed with the Monkees, mixed with James Brown, mixed with George Clinton, you know, mixed with Billy Squier, Big Beat, you know, and it would go on and on. All of the songs that you hear sampled for the last 20 years were songs that Bambaataa made famous back then. I said, this is amazing, you want to make a record? And I asked him if he wanted to make a record. This is even before I started Tommy Boy, or I was just starting it. And he said, sure, let's do it. I didn't realize he was already making records with Paul Winley at the same time. Another guy who had a label called Winley Records on 125th Street. But then Afrika Bambaataa, I took him into a 8-track studio and we recorded a demo that later became Planet Rock that used 4 or 5 of the different samples, incorporated them into the music, and Planet Rock, you know, sort of uses some of Kraftwerk in it and a few other things that was one of the first legitimate cleared sample records. It actually was the first record that used the 808 drum machine. It was the first record with a digital synthesizer. There were a million firsts that were in that record. But that's what happened. And it wasn't the first record I did with him. Before that, I did Jazzy Sensation with Afrika Bambaataa with the Jazzy 5. He had 3 groups, the Cosmic Force, the Jazzy 5, and the Soul Sonic Force. He wanted to be like George Clinton and have the Brides of Funkenstein and Parlette and Funkadelic and Parliament. And, you know, a lot of people like to, you know, George Clinton was a big influence to a lot of people, especially to Afrika Bambaataa.